Hello, it's me. Sorry if the camera is a little unsteady because I'm kind of free holding it while I'm leaning the tripod on my knee, and oh my god, chaos is going on, and I don't know how to make this work. I'm, yeah, I have no idea how to make this work. I'm air drying after dilation, so there's no nice place to put the camera. It's the best, and I can't just hold it up with my arm for like a half an hour. So I'm basically leaning it on my knee and holding it up. So I don't know how well this is gonna work. This is chaos. I'm totally unprepared. But I'm home. I'm home now. So okay, this is actually my first full day home. But I'm not going to talk about my first full day home. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Today I'm going to talk about my travel day yesterday. And the reason why I'm making this video today and not yesterday was because by the time I got home and did my 2 dilations that I needed to do before I could go to bed, I was so exhausted that I just couldn't. I couldn't do this. I barely had the strength to do the dilations and eat and then just go straight to bed. And I slept for 10 hours. 10 hours. And I'll probably sleep 10 hours tonight too because I'm exhausted today. Anyways, we're here to talk about yesterday. So, yesterday, where did it begin? Yesterday began at, yeah, this is probably going to be jumpy, which is crap, but now I'm using two hands. Um, Yesterday, oh no, shit, that's a problem, right? Because like, there's no there's no elegant way to air dry downstairs. Because you gotta get your legs in a position where you're like opening yourself up, which is not easy to do, and it's not comfortable even remotely. Um, and then where do I put the camera? Like I'm trying to lean the camera on my knee, but then if I move my knee towards the center where it'd be more comfortable, then I'm not spread open as much as I should be. I don't know. I'll figure this out. This is going to be rough and ready. Hopefully tomorrow's video will be better. Sorry. Okay, so where did it begin? Yesterday began at 4 a.m. So I had to do, basically because I was traveling for so long. I had to do two dilations because I have to do 4 dilations a day. Have to. Like there's no option for not doing less than four, and well, not doing exactly four. So I was up at 4 a.m. to do dilation number one, which was not a lot of sleep. And so I did that, and then I just did a shower and washed my hair, did a full shower, washed my hair, and got myself basically prepared to go. And then I just rested for about an hour and a half because I didn't get very much sleep. So I lay there with my eyes covered for an hour and a half to get some rest. And then at 7 a.m., I did my second dilation, and they always want you to do extra time. So the dilation is 5 minutes with a number three, and then 25 minutes with a number four. And that's just standard. That's what we do. Um, but before we travel to go home, they want us to do 10 minutes on the number three and 30 minutes on the number four. So that's what I did at the 7 a.m. dilation. That's what I did. I did 10 and 30. And then I did a sitz bath after that. And and of course the flushing out with saline solution, which we do every single time. Um, and then that was that. Yeah, this is going to get uncomfortable pretty fast. So I'm going to keep moving you around, which is probably going to be annoying. Um, so yeah, then I did my second dilation, which was 40 minutes in total at 7. And then after I was air dried and spent a little bit of time with ice pack, I then got dressed and went and got some breakfast. Said goodbye to a few of the staff. Super nice. Oh my God. I can't recommend GRS Montreal highly enough across the board. They're the best surgeons in the world as far as I'm concerned. I'm very happy with things down here. I'll discuss that tomorrow. Cliffhanger. Well, not a cliffhanger, but you have no choice. You got to watch tomorrow to find out what's good. And yeah, I said goodbye to some of the staff. They're all super, super, super amazing and nice people. And um, then at 9, I did a bit of like outgoing paperwork. Oh, they took a picture also too. Before I got dressed, they came and they took a picture of like what's going on down there. So it's kind of like a final picture before I leave, which I emailed to them so that A, they have my email address, and B, they've got a final picture of, where I'm basically starting once I leave, so that if there are any issues going forward and I need to send them a picture of what it looks like, they can compare it back against the picture as it was just before I left. So we did that. And then I got dressed, I had some breakfast, and said goodbye to some of the people. And then I did some paperwork, like outgoing paperwork. And that was basically it. They called me a taxi, and I went and sat by the door, and the taxi came and then took me to the main train station in Montreal. And that was it. I was gone. I don't know how many days. So Tuesday to Wednesday inclusive. So 8 days. So my 8 days there was done. It went by so fast. And I can't believe how much I healed in such a short period of time. Like, it's shocking. Like, when I look down there today, I can actually look down and not be absolutely grossed out by what I'm seeing, because it's not as much of a, it's only slightly a gore fest down near the bottom. But towards the top, it's looking normal. But again, I'm not sharing that till tomorrow's video. um, so then the taxi took me to the main train station. $40 taxi ride. Kind of standard. Would have been the same for that kind of distance in Toronto. And I don't use Lyft or Uber or any of that bullshit, because my uncle was a taxi driver, and I grew up working in taxi garages. So I've grown up in the Toronto taxi industry, and I have a certain amount of loyalty to taxi cab drivers. I spent my formative years um, pumping propane for them. So yeah, I don't use those app based services. I know they're cheaper, but I won't use them. I refuse to use them because I have loyalty to the taxi industry. Anyways, got to the train station, went in, got myself a coffee and Date Square at the Second Cup, which is shit coffee, but whatever. That's all there was, anyways. And then I went and stood in the line for the train. And then we went around, and then downstairs, under, along, crossover, up, down, got on the train, and then my 3-hour train journey began. So I haven't had very much pain. And I didn't actually have very much pain while I was, I had a lot of discomfort, but I didn't have very much pain while I was on the train. I haven't had very much pain all the way through, except for when the stent was in, but the bandages was off, and there was the only thing holding the stent in was the 3 stitches over top. That was the only serious ass pain I experienced in the whole time, and that was only because there was this 7-inch long stent pushing out on 3 stitch points or 6 stitch points. Oh my God, that hurt like a motherfucker. But beyond that, I really haven't had very much pain. So on the train, I have this super fancy dished donut seat, so it's got a hole in the middle, and then it's got a divot down the midline to give just extra cushion. And it's all memory foam, and it's supposed to put less pressure on your nether regions. But the problem is, and this is the problem with all donuts, is that your weight tends to go towards the direction of least resistance. So, which means it tends to cause everything to pull outwards. So whatever's down at the very bottom, actually, it's fine, but everything around it is kind of tugged on. And we got suture lines up higher up that would not come in contact with it, but they're getting tugged on just because of the way you sit on it. So it's comfortable. It's more comfortable than sitting. Well, okay, I'll discuss my dad's truck because I drove today. I'll discuss my dad's truck tomorrow as well. Um, all the good bits are tomorrow. Um, and I didn't use the donut for that. But except for that seat, all the seats I've sat on so far, it's been more comfortable with the donut, but only marginally, like not hands down better. And in fact, I think within a few days I won't even be using the donut anymore because it's a hassle, and I think it might be making things even more uncomfortable peripherally from the center, but not at the center. Anyways, I did sit on it, had to sit on it because I couldn't sit on the raw seat, and of course I had a full size pad in my underwear, and because I'm still bleeding, um, and and it was okay at first, but after the first hour, it started getting rather not really, but rather uncomfortable. I would say for uncomfortableness, I would say minor uncomfortableness at the 1 hour mark, and then medium uncomfortableness at the 3 hour mark. So it went from fine to medium uncomfortable within 3 hours. But after the first hour, yeah, it started to become a little more. I felt a little bit antsy and wanted to move more, and I was shifting my weight around more, and that increased as the time went by. Um, Changed my pad once while I was on the train. Mostly because of comfort, because it was just kind of binding up in a couple spots and was starting to ache a little bit. So put a new one in, just so that it would be softer and newer. Um, and then, yeah, I basically just sat and waited patiently for 3 hours to go by, to get off the train. And then when I got off the train, which was in Oshawa, Ontario, for those who know the region, um, uh, my friend Jen came and picked me up and drove me home, all the way from Oshawa to the Niagara Peninsula. I'm not gonna dox myself. Yeah, I know. I'm moving the camera again. Um, yeah, and they dropped me off at about 5. No, I guess it was about 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. when they dropped me off. And then they took off. I went inside. I brought my stuff upstairs. Nothing was over 10 pounds because we're not supposed to lift over 10 pounds while we're healing. Okay, I live in a real world. Everything weighs more than 10 pounds in the real world, so it seems. Anyways, I got my shit upstairs because basically my dad's house, he has the whole first floor, and I have the whole second floor because he can't deal with stairs, and I'm fine with him. So yeah, the upstairs is my apartment, and the downstairs is his apartment, I guess. Uh, though I don't have like an outside door or anything. I go through the house to get upstairs. It's just that we are separated by a staircase and doors and a door at the bottom, which I keep closed for privacy, and noise actually because his TV's rather loud because he's deaf. Um, all information completely useless to completely non-germane to the topic of discussion, obviously. I have to go off on tangents every now and then. Um, I'm giving the kind of whistle tour here of the day, and then I'll go back and I'll hit on some key issues because there were some issues. Anyways, got all my stuff upstairs. I immediately prepared to do my first dilation. I talked them to give me in some extra saline before I left, so I had enough saline to make it through till this morning without having to make any, which was nice. It was very handy not having to deal with that last night because I was so tired. So tired. Um, did my first dilation around 9 o'clock, I guess. I did my second dilation. And once I was all air dried from that, then I went to bed. I had dinner. I had dinner last night. This is going to be so boring, but my diet is really boring. I don't like food. I don't care about food. It means nothing to me. I have virtually no sense of smell. And as a result, I have a very muted sense of taste. Couldn't care less about food. So I am all about maximum nutritional content, and I don't care anything beyond that. So my foods are like 80% raw vegetable because maximum nutritional content. So yeah, like I live on like sandwiches with the sticks and twigs bread, but sandwiches of like baby spinach and tomato and onion and spicy hummus I make myself. And salads, a lot of salads. Again, just vegetable matter. Um, and meat for meat, I eat chicken hearts and chicken livers and whole fresh uh, um, frozen whole fish, specifically whole fish because I like all of the squidgy bits. Like I eat the skin and um, the cheeks and all the little squidgy bits because it's extremely healthy for you. Uh, I just need to check something. I think I just touched the screen. Hold on. No. Okay, we're good. Sorry. I'm really screwing this one up. Tomorrow will be better. I don't know how. Anyway, so like again, I don't like food. I don't like eating. It's just a pain in the ass to me. I try to do the minimum effort I can get away with, and I just eat the food that is the most nutrition, has the highest nutritional content. I try to avoid cooking as much as I possibly can, so I eat as much raw vegetable matter as I can. And that's really boring for most people. Like it's really, really boring diet for most people. But for me, it's what I live on, right? It's what I'm used to. So as nice as the food was at the hospital, I was so glad to come home and have one of my patented vegetable sandwiches. It felt so good to eat my food. Um, that was my dinner, and then I went to bed and I slept for 10 hours. That is the highlight reel of the day. Now, the elephant in the room. Getting home was always going to be a bit of a pain in the ass because my father's 85. His sister is 74. They're the only two people that I have in my family who I can ask for help. And my dad is started doing chemo. So it was completely unrealistic to ask my father to drive all the way to Montreal, stay overnight, and then drive back. And he would have had my aunt, his sister, with him, uh, and then drive me back because I wouldn't have been able to drive. Um, it wasn't realistic. So that was the original plan. But once we found he had to do chemo, we were like, okay, yeah, no, this isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So the only fallback I had was to ask my best friend of 21 years to pick me up somewhere. Now, my original plan was that she would pick me up in Toronto because that would get me as close as I could get without having to go onto like a commuter train. So it'd just be like a national railroad train from Montreal to Toronto. And I mean, looking back now, I could have gone to Burlington. Again, this is none of these places are going to mean anything to you if you're not here in Southern Ontario, but whatever, it doesn't matter. I could have taken a commuter train from Toronto to Burlington, which would have made it even easier for her to pick me up and take me home. But I didn't know what shape I would be in because they kept warning us, your trip home is going to be brutal and your it's going to be super hard and blah blah blah, and probably is for most people, not for me. Anyways, didn't know what to expect, so erred on the side of caution. I said, well, I'll go to Toronto, you come pick me up and take me home from there. And then she said, well, I'll go to my parents' place and then I'll come down and pick you up from Oshawa, because her parents' place is not too far from Oshawa. And I'm like, okay, sure, if you want to do that, we could do that. I'm fine with that. It means my train journey is shorter, so sure, I mean, I'm okay with that. So I bought a non-refundable ticket, and that was that. And then afterwards, she decided that she wasn't going to go to her parents' place the night before, but instead she was going to drive all the way from her home, which was like halfway, basically, distance wise, from Oshawa and my place. So she's going to go from basically the halfway mark all the way to Oshawa, all the way down to my place, and then all the way back to her place in this giant triangle in one day. And I was like, well, I mean, you can't look a gift horse in the mouth, but it didn't seem very realistic to me at the time. But hey, who am I to tell what people can do or can't do? So that's how the plan changed. And then we got weather reports that a storm was coming in, and it looked like it was going to be a reasonably intense storm. Not the worst thing in the world, but reasonably intense. And then she was like, well, can I stay over at your place so I don't have to drive home in the dark? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. We can accommodate you. That's no problem at all. And then she was like, well, can we just go from Oshawa to my parents' place? And then we can go home in the morning from there. And I was like, yeah, we can do that too. I have all the supplies I need to do my dilation. So, as long, yeah, I have everything I need. So, yes, we can do that. And then I can't remember if it was when I was on the train or if it was before I got on the train. I don't remember. I'd have to look at the times of the text messages. But, anyways, it was somewhere yesterday that she decided she wasn't up to driving in the weather. And yes, those are scare quotes on purpose. So she dumped the problem on her partner's lap, which was not cool. And Jen, being super duper helping and caring and kind and whatever, volunteered to drive because Jen is far more comfortable driving in winter conditions because she has to do this long commute for work, and she has been doing for years. So Jen was coming to pick me up, which I'm super thankful to them. So, so, so fucking thankful to them for doing this for me. Anyways, once I was on the train and I was starting to become uncomfortable, so that didn't help at all. But I just started crying. And easily the last hour and a half of the trip, I was crying literally nonstop. I was even starting to irritate the people around me. I mean, I wasn't like bawling out loud, but I mean, I'm like weeping quietly to myself, and I'm blowing my nose every 15 seconds because when I cry, this snot runs freely. And yeah, for like the last hour and a half of the trip, I was crying the entire way. I was just absolutely gutted that she had made the choices that she had made, not just on the day because of the weather, but leading up to that, you know? I don't like asking people for help. I'm a I am a tough son of a bitch. Well, I guess I'm a tough daughter of a bitch. And I don't like asking people for help. I prefer to do things on my own whenever humanly possible. And in this one circumstance, I needed help. And I thought, I thought she would step up. I mean, I didn't believe she wouldn't. And I was looking forward to see her so that I could like tell her, you know, in real time, like while everything is like super fresh in my head, like tell her about the thoughts I had about it from a like a psychological. She's a psychotherapist, so I'm like, I've got all of these thoughts about the mental processes that are going on and my emotional experience and the embodiment of, you know, the trauma of the surgery and the embodiment of the, fast evolving situation down there and how it impacts me emotionally and physically and mentally, and I wanted to share all this stuff when it was all fresh in my mind, and she dumped it on her partner. So, I mean, I I owe I owe Jen big time for this. But yeah, there's a reason why I don't like depending on other people. I have always done so much better when I don't rely on other people. Yeah. So I was crying in the car too. And I was trying not to, and I was trying not to make it fucking obvious, but Jen noticed. And at least I think they did. Anyways, um, yeah. It was tough. It was exhausting. It was really uncomfortable. The last 2 hours of the trip was just increasingly more and more and more uncomfortable. Once I was in the car, I was fine because I could put the passenger seat back like at a 60-degree angle so that all of the weight was off of that particular spot. And I could sit on the donut, but all of the bulk of my upper body weight was like on the seat back and not on that. And the ride home was, on the car was totally fine. Totally fine. But yeah, the last couple of hours in that train was really uncomfortable. I really feel for the people who had to fly home. My t-shirt's on inside out. No, it's not. No, it's not. Um, yeah, I really feel bad for the people who had to fly home because like people come from all over the world, right? And people, particularly people in Canada, they have a tendency of like as soon as it's departure day, they'll like go and get on a plane and then fly home to like Alberta or BC or wherever, right? Although they've got surgeons in BC now, so I don't know how much they get traffic from there, but definitely Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and Northern Ontario. Yeah, you basically you go GRS Montreal, and even though there is a surgeon, or I don't know if it's a surgeon or it's a surgical facility, whatever it is. I looked at it briefly once and said, "Yeah, I want to stick with GRS Montreal." But there's one in Toronto at Women's College Hospital, and I did consider applying for it because it's a hell of a lot more convenient location wise than Montreal is. But I had heard that they had a long waiting list. Don't know how much that difference that makes given how long I had to wait because I had to wait fucking 11 months. But yeah, I heard that they had longer waiting lists than GRS Montreal. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stick with the professionals. Um, Another thing I'm going to go into tomorrow is my kind of take because tomorrow I will describe what's going on down there. So I'll give my take on GRS from a surgical perspective. Now that I've got a little better view of what's going on down there, and it's very positive. But that's for tomorrow. um, yeah, Yeah, I can only imagine. Because also, too, right, when you're up at those high altitudes, like the cabin pressure is 10,000 feet, right? And we're like, uh, Toronto and Montreal are like 220 feet above sea level, right? Like roughly 100 meters above sea level. Well, I think Montreal's a little bit lower, but we're basically near sea level, right? And um and cabin pressure on a typical jetliner is 10,000 feet. I gotta move the camera again. My arm's getting tired. Um, so that pressure change has a real effect on people's physiology down there. Yeah, so I can only imagine what it must be like to have to fly, 3.5 hours or whatever back to. I guess it's about 3 hours to Alberta, but it can't be fun. Um, but it was a long day too, so I left. I got on the train at quarter to 11. I got off the train about quarter to 4, and then the drive down. I got home about 6, so 11 to 6, 7 and a quarter. Well, let's just say 7.5 hours, because I don't know if it was exactly 6. It might have been slightly after. Let's just say a 7.5 hour travel time, which was, yeah, it was easy, because the last bit of it, which would have been the most painful, I was reclined in a car seat, which was, really helped a lot. But yeah, travel day is not good for anybody. It sucks. And I got home, I dilated twice, had dinner, went to bed. Um, yeah, exhausted. Was exhausted yesterday. I'm exhausted today. I've done my third of my 4 dilations so far, and today, and yeah, I'm ready for bed, and I've got to wait several hours before I can do my next dilation. Oof. We're into the next phase. We're into the recovery phase. The surgical phase is done and in the books, and we're on to the recovery phase. And yeah, but it's going good. It's going good. Now that I'm home, and thank God I'm home. I'm so happy to be home. Yeah, things are going really well, and bleeding is a lot less. Bleeding yesterday was bleeding yesterday was okay. The day before was a little more bleeding. Yesterday was a little less bleeding. Today is less bleeding than yesterday. Not that that's necessarily an ongoing trend. I mean, it might go up again. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, yeah, things are settling down a lot. Things are a lot more comfortable. I'm feeling kind of weak and low energy, and I'm not. I think it's. I think it's partially because I'm low energy, and partially because every time I bend my body in just the wrong way, everything down there gets really tight, and which kind of psychs you up to the point where you're like, I want to just not touch anything. But yeah, that's the day yesterday. That's my travel day. I would say for difficult days, I would say the travel day is probably the second most difficult day after the stent is still in but the bandage is off day. That was brutal. Absolutely. Well, that night and morning was absolutely brutal. But next in line, I'd say travel day is probably the next toughest, because it really takes a lot out of you. And even though I didn't have a lot of pain yesterday, I had a lot of discomfort. And yeah, I was not a happy camper for multiple reasons. So yeah, I want to say more, but at the same time, I'm fucking tired and I'm hungry, and it's not that long before I'm gonna have to dilate again, and I'd like to just chill and relax, because the second I'm finished dilating and I'm air dried after the next one, I'm going to bed. I'm gonna pew. I'm checking right out. So yeah, there's other things I'd like to talk about, but I don't really have the time, or well, I don't have the energy to talk about them here. So we'll see how tomorrow goes. Maybe if tomorrow, if I feel a little bit more rested, then I can invest a little more time discussing my impressions of GRS Montreal, my impressions of my surgical site, my impressions of my healing, my impressions of the workload involved around healing now that I'm in the healing phase. Yeah, and I'd like to talk about some of the psychological stuff too. Um, I kind of wanted to talk to my best friend first because she's a psychotherapist, but whatever. That's not going to happen. Um, yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about. And maybe if I'm more rested tomorrow, I'll be able to spend a little longer talking about all of the impressions I have and just kind of use that to wrap up this series. Make a little bit longer video tomorrow to wrap it all up. And then going forward, all the new videos will just be, whatever. They'll all be whatever interesting ad hoc topic I might want to talk about. Because I got a big project I'm working on, and I haven't mentioned it here because it's not apropos to this, but I will talk about it in the future because it's a massive project for me, and I want to talk about it. So maybe that's about all I'm going to say tonight. All things considered, yesterday wasn't that bad, and I'm knock on wood. I've done pretty damn well. Is this? I think the camera might have been down too low. Okay, tomorrow I definitely am not holding the fucking camera because this is ridiculous. I think that was angled down too low for like, I don't know, however long. Anyways, I love y'all, and I will talk to you tomorrow. And that's that.